Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report, and coming up here on today's show is going to be our fan-led mock draft. Now, I go live every single Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific, and I love the show that we have here. Why? Because it's interactive. So the mock draft that you're about to see coming up here was made by the local supporters over here on our YouTube channel, and every single one of the picks was made either by votes or by a super chat. So it wasn't me, but I will go ahead and break it all down for you. Now, when we went ahead and we did this, we said, okay, we got 5 picks, and there's different ways that you can go ahead and by voting. So you could throw down a comment of the player that you wanted. That went ahead and equaled 1 vote. If you wanted to go ahead and throw in a $5 super chat, that was 50 votes. $10 super chat was 125 votes. $20 super chat, 250 votes for a player. And if you threw in a $100 super, you just got to outright make the pick. So what you're going to see now is every single one of the picks in this mock draft. So when I went live on YouTube, I ran a mock draft simulator thanks to PFN Mock Draft Simulator. And if you guys ever want to send me one of your own personal mocks, remember, more than happy to go ahead and grade it over on Instagram. Just make sure you tag me at Mitchell Renz 365. We try to do a fan-led mock draft every single year, and I always like what this ends up coming because I can always make a mock. We always end up getting other picks here and there. But this is really realistically the very first year that the Raiders haven't had a first or they haven't had a second-round pick. So as these picks continue to go through, friendly reminder that the Raiders' first pick, thanks to the Davante Adams trade, is going to be number 86 overall in round 3. A lot of times people ask me, all right, what do you still think are the biggest needs out there for the Raiders? I'm still going to say right tackle. I'm going to say linebacker. Defensive tackle is a need. If you can go out and find another edge rusher, never a bad thing. With all the Raiders' draft visits on top of that, I'll also say that finding more nickel backs or finding more corners is something that this Raiders organization is absolutely interested in. So if you're following along with us here in this mock, the Raiders are getting close now. Carson Strong, good quarterback prospect. He happens to go to the New York Giants. Martin Emerson, Romeo Doubs, Vernon McKinley, Calvin Austin III, which means now that the Las Vegas Raiders are officially on the clock. So before I show you guys who are the best players available, before I tell you who sent in super chats and what, who should the Raiders go out and pick at number 86? I want you to go down to the comments right now. Let me know, after seeing all 85 of those picks, if you were running this mock draft, who would you go ahead and select? When I really look at some of the best players available, I thought Linebacker Chanel, the linebacker from Wisconsin, and if anybody wants him, throw one down in the comments. And the number that you see next to the player is the number that I told people to type during the live show. So it was Cameron Thomas, Nicholas Petit-Frere, Drake Jackson, Greg Dulich, Kirby Joseph, Brian Asamoah, Channing Tittle, Zion McCollum. These were the best players I thought were available. Shout out to LC Raider. He wanted Linebacker Chanel. He threw in a $5 super chat. But the MVP of today's show is Daniel Topchi, who was just throwing supers left and right, as you'll hear. And he went ahead and threw down a $10 super chat, which ended up being our pick here, Nicholas Petit-Frere, the offensive tackle from Ohio State. The reason why they went with this route was you're looking for an offensive lineman who has high upside, and that's exactly what Petit-Frere is. When he was coming out of high school, he was one of the top offensive line prospects out there, 5-star recruit, and at 6'5", 316 pounds, he has playing experience at the right tackle position for the Buckeyes. And he's got plenty of playing experience because essentially since he's gone over to Columbus, he's been one of the more reliable offensive line prospects. Here's the issue, though. I actually don't see Petit-Frere being ready to start week 1, and I don't think he's ready to play right away. So even though he does have the high upside, yes, I like the ability with Carmen Brasillo to hopefully come in and coach him up a little bit. The upside's there. He's a really good athlete, but the technique does need to get better. And because the technique needs to get better, I would still rather have Brandon Parker as your starting right tackle in year 1. That way also you're not putting out Petit-Frere in a bad situation, which also puts Alex Leatherwood, I believe, in a bad situation. So I told y'all, with every single one of these picks, I'll also just go ahead and give it a verbal grade. I'm going to go ahead and give this one a C grade. I wasn't overly excited. I actually thought that there could have been better offensive line linemen, which you guys will see probably coming up here in a little bit, which now means it's this. Now it's round 4 time. Pick 126, and just like we showed you the last time, going through all the picks, we're going to go ahead and we're going to show you all of that again. But remember, you also can send in Super Chats, so I'll kind of tell you what ended up happening. Before I tell you who we ended up going with at pick 126, if you're looking for more Raiders content, if you want to participate in more mock drafts, if you just are a diehard Raider fan, hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications, because there's going to be a lot of stuff that happens the entire offseason, and I don't want you to miss it. And I am going to be live for the NFL draft, so even though we won't get to make the picks, maybe, just maybe, we can influence it just a little bit. So seriously, hit that sub button. All right, let's continue to go through the 2022 NFL mock draft that we ran. And when you consider the fact that some of the players that are about to go off the board, I wanted Cameron Thomas. I thought Brian Asamoah would have been a very interesting prospect as well. Greg Dulcich is a tight end that I like. Lial Chenal, LC Raider, he ended up going 97 overall to the Detroit Lions. Matt Walzadico, I can never pronounce his last name. He's an offensive tackle prospect from North Dakota that I do like. Channing Tittle, 103 to the Chiefs. Interesting pick there. Darian Kennard, another really good offensive lineman prospect. He ends up going to the New York Jets. And then we're going to keep on rolling because the Raiders have their pick at 126 in round 4. And realistically, this is where it gets to be a little bit of a difficult situation. I do like Wan'Dale Robinson. He's a good athlete. Alontae Taylor is actually a corner that the Raiders have already gone ahead and they have brought in. And with every single pick, again, we asked them, what picks would you want to go ahead and go with? So, after seeing that route, who should the Raiders go ahead and draft at pick 126? Go ahead. Let me know down in the comments section who you would have went with. In terms of the best players available at this pick, here they were. You had Zion McCollum, Amari Barno, Khalil Shakir, J.T. Woods, and the voting for this pick did get a little bit interesting. Daniel Topchi, he threw in a $10 super chat for number 17. Marcus Jones, the cornerback out of Houston, and there was a lot of votes coming in for Jones. There was even some votes coming in for Kellen Dyche. J.T. Woods was interesting, and then essentially the cherry on top was Cameron Sproul. He went ahead, he threw a super chat in for number 17, and as soon as that happened, all the votes started coming in for Marcus Jones, which ended up being our pick at 126, the cornerback out of Houston. This is another player that the Raiders have brought in on a visit. Extremely athletic. I don't know if he's ever going to materialize as a corner in the National Football League, but he would be our special teamer. He'd be our kick returner, our punt returner, and I'm telling y'all right now, I think a good NFL team would try to use him on the offensive side of the football, because with 9 career punt return touchdowns, the guy is just electric with the ball in his hand. He doesn't have the technique, I think, to make it at the NFL level. He was always good enough in college due to his athletic traits and due to his athletic ability. But if you wanted to get ballsy, you wanted to try to put him in the offense, just see what he can do, I get what the numbers are, and the numbers are impressive at Houston. But at the NFL level, he would be somebody that I would like to turn into a weapon, and that's just me being real with y'all. So that was round 4, pick 126. The Raiders have back-to-back 5th-round picks, and then a pick in the 7th round. So as it stands, you got Nicholas Petit-Frere, Marcus Jones, and now in round 5, pick 164, and then essentially what we're going to do is go back-to-back picks here at 165. So before I tell y'all who Raider Nation ended up going with during our live show and our fan-led mock, remember, if you want even more exclusive content, become a member over on Locals. It's free to become a member. How do you do it? You go to the link that you see below, RaidersReport.locals.com. And then if you want even more content on top of that, like these guys right here, these are our Locals supporters, which you can go ahead and do for $10 a month or for $100 a year. You just get extra live shows. You get extra exclusive videos. So shout out to Tom, Raider Rob, Giovanni, Super Raider. I told all the guys to throw in their area code. So Def Jasper, it's all good. It's a zip code. But if you do want to see a future shout out, become a member over on Locals at RaidersReport.locals.com. All right, let's keep on rocking and rolling here through the round 4 and then work our way up to round 5. So in terms of some of the other players here, I do like Luke Fortner. The Eric Izukama has actually been a receiver that the Raiders have brought in. He ends up going to 133 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Ogbinya, the defensive tackle from UCLA, he actually just came in on a visit for the Silver and Black. Chris Paul is a player that I've talked about numerous times on the show. Dare Rosenthal, really good offensive line prospect, does have some off-the-field issues, though, if we're being 100% honest. In my last mock draft that I did with the content creators, we ended up going with J.T. Woods. He ends up going to the Seattle Seahawks here at round 5, 153. Tyquan Thornton, another really athletic wide receiver from Baylor, which then means Matt Hennessing, Zamir White, and then Alex Wright off the board. So now the Raiders are officially on the clock, and here were the best players available. And this is when I'll say the Super Chats got very, very interesting, if you will. So a lot of the votes that started coming in were for Kellen Dyche. Also some votes for Josh Paschal, the edge rusher from UK. Danny Gray got some votes as well. And then ended up what happening here is Daniel Topchi, he sent in a $10 super chat for Kellen Dyche. Then we got another super chat for Amari Barno, the edge rusher. So shout out to Cruiser TM. Then we got another super chat for Amari Barno from Amenbra. And then Cruiser sent in another one for Amari. So I was sitting here being like, oh man, this is what's going to end up being the pick. But then Daniel Topchi, this is pretty interesting stuff. But with the amount of votes that came in with Daniel Topchi's super chat and the amount of votes that ended up coming in for Kellen Dyche, that was the route we ended up going here in this fan-led mock draft. So the offensive tackle prospect Kellen Dyche from Arizona State was the reason why we ended up going this route here. And not that I'm totally surprised, but you know what? I like the fact that we went with this guy at 6'7", 300 pounds. If I'm being honest, I actually like Kellen Dyche more as a prospect than I do Nicholas Petit-Frere. I just think Dyche, he has a lot more of the traits that you're looking for, and you're hoping that he can compete with Petit-Frere. When you look at the 40-yard dash, 4.89 for somebody this big, it's very, very impressive. And he reminds me a little bit of a lesser version of Colton Miller, and where if you get the right coaching, you put him in the right system, you're going to be in a good spot. Coming up now is the Raiders' 5th round pick in 165, and, well, we don't have to really go anywhere. Before I tell you who the Raiders went ahead and took, if you want even more content, and if you like to listen to the Raiders Report, and when you're walking your dog or you're doing something, you can actually minimize the screen and still listen to the show, and it's not going to go anywhere. It's rumble.com/Raiders Report. That link, again, comments and in the description of today's video. So then when you look at the best players available at 165, not a lot realistically changed. And now when I'm looking at some of my notes here, the super chats that came in that I talked about last round, well, a lot of them were actually for this round. So it came out strong for Amari Barno with 19. And then Daniel Topchi said, you know what? No, I want Danny Gray at 27. And I would say majority of the votes that came in were actually for number 27. And then another one came in from Big Silver and Black, which put the cherry on top for Danny Gray, which is why we went with a wide receiver from SMU who had 49 catches, 803 yards, 9 touchdowns, a player that's already come in on his official visit with the Silver and Black. A lot of speed, long strider. I actually got to see him play since he is from Dallas, Texas, which is where I currently reside. His 40-yard dash time, 4.33. Good shuttle. The cone's not the best. You're just essentially looking for a straight line runner, which is what you're going to get out of Gray. I would still have more faith in Brian Edwards, still have more faith in Demarcus Robinson. However, if you're looking for extra depth at the wide receiver position, Danny Gray, the wide receiver from SMU, it is pretty interesting, which means we only have one pick remaining, and it's in round 7, pick 227. And, you know, I appreciated everyone that came across the show and appreciate everyone that was watching. If you guys like what we're doing here at Chat Sports, well, guess what? You're going to love what we do on NFL Draft Day. We're going to be live all 3 days, all 7 rounds from April 28th to the 30th. Why? Because that's when the draft's going to be going down. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you turn on those notifications. We're going to be the #1 most watched draft coverage on YouTube. Let's continue to go through here, and I'm just going to tell Sam as quickly as he wants to go through these later picks because, let's be real, I don't know how many of y'all actually know some of these players. Marquise Bell is actually a pretty good prospect that I do like quite a bit. Matt Ariza ends up going to the Cowboys. That's going to make Tom really happy. D'Angelo Malone, the edge rusher from Western Kentucky, I actually see him going a lot higher up in the draft. Amari Barno, that was the guy that I really wanted. He went in round 6 in this mock. In terms of some other prospects, Josh Jobe, Josh Joby, another really good corner from Alabama. I see him going in the top 4. Vincent Gray, corner from Michigan. Interesting there. Chase Lucas, another cornerback from Arizona State. Quentin Lake, James Houston, James Mitchell, who's actually come in for a visit with the silver and black as well. One of the very first mock drafts I ever did, I took Christopher Allen, who goes round 7, pick 224 out of Alabama. And then it goes Zach Nelson, the quarterback from Notre Dame, Jack Cohn, who I'm sorry, am not all that crazy about, which then rounds out the best players available at 227. And more Super Chats came in, which the first Super Chat that came in was for Thomas Booker, the defensive tackle from Stanford. So shout out to Cameron Sproul. Then Amambra goes with Kalen Barnes. Then another one, Ryan Vargas, ends up going with DeMarco Jackson. Another one from Alacron's Gaming goes with Kalen Barnes. Daniel Topchi sent in a pretty big super chat for DeMarcus Johnson. And then the votes continue to come in. And thanks to all the super chats from Daniel Topchi, well, he ends up getting his guy here, DeMarco Jackson, the linebacker out of Appalachian State in round 7, 227. And actually one of the very first mocks that I did, I took this kid. Why? Good sideline to sideline, definitely a little bit undersized, but I really truly believe can end up being at least a special teamer, which is essentially what you're looking for in round 7. So worst case scenario, he doesn't end up panning out as a linebacker. He ends up being able to use that 4.55 speed that he used last season, and he can be a gunner. He can be somebody that you throw in a kick returns, punt returns, but who knows? Maybe somebody who had 119 tackles, 6 sacks last season, good enough athlete, who can continue to get better. Solid cone drill also in shuttle for a linebacker. I mean, think about it. That's a lot better than what Danny Gray ran. That's all I'm saying. So here's what it was, man. The Raiders fan-led mock draft. We took Nicholas Petit-Frere in round 386, Marcus Jones, Kellen Diesch, Danny Gray, and then DeMarco Jackson. So what I want to know from all y'all, go ahead and grade the mock draft. A, B, C, D, or F. When I really thought about it from top to bottom, I gave Petit-Frere a C. Marcus Jones, I'll give a B. Diesch, I'll give an A due to the value. Danny Gray is a C to me, and then DeMarco Jackson, is a B. So overall, I'd probably give this a C+, B- grade, maybe a B grade overall. Yeah, you know, we'll go with a B grade. So appreciate everyone who tuned in. Appreciate everyone who watched. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do.